topic for today is responsible leadership in an enterprise ecosystem, balancing profit, people, and purpose. This relates to the pillar of responsible leadership. Good Morning BSN is organized by the BSN Impact Center for Great Leadership. The center is an initiative of BSN generously founded by the Culture Factor Group and sponsored by the new energy company Chint Global. The Impact Center for Great Leadership is a place where BSN alumni and other managers and leaders from companies and society meet each other to share insights and to create new practical knowledge. You can also contact the center for any in-company programs you may need or to further grow your talent and your teams within your organizations. Our presenter today is Seye Olurotimi, the founder of MSME Africa and a leading voice in entrepreneurship support, branding, SME development across Africa. He is a certified trainer, business coach, and communications expert with over 19 years of experience in capacity building, brand management, and strategy. As lead consultant at Cedar Tribe, he provides advisory training, integrated marketing solutions to SMEs and corporates. Seye serves as a mentor of multiple entrepreneurship platforms and is a faculty member for several enterprise support institutions. He is widely recognized for his thought leadership, advocacy, and work in empowering MSMEs through media, training, and community building initiatives. Our reflector for today is Olorunfemi, a multi-country program leader with over 10 years of experience in advancing food systems, transformation, and inclusive development across Africa. She has managed 20 million euro plus projects impacting over 10,000 women, youth, and SMEs. At GAIN, she leads the Nutrition Impact Center at Scale project that drives partnerships with enterprise support organizations. Her expertise spans finance, entrepreneurship, digital innovation, gender-focused development. Mercy is committed to scaling nutritious food access and strengthening SMEs ecosystems across the continent. Good morning to you. Thank you very much for being here this morning. Seye, can we ask you to please present to us on your topic, which is an extremely interesting topic for this morning. You can go right ahead.
Okay, good morning, Juanita, and good morning, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here today. And as rightly introduced, we're going to be looking together at the topic. And under the pillar of responsible leadership, we're going to be looking at how to balance people, purpose, and profit. And I believe everybody here will agree with me that those three things, the interplay of those three would always be evident in our business on a day-to-day basis. And maybe I want to ask a quick question. So, talking about people, we're talking about employee welfare, talking about profit, we're talking about financial gain. And when we talk about purpose, we're talking about the why behind your business. The why that is beyond just making money, and it goes to look at things like social impact, environmental sustainability, and every other thing in between. So I want to ask now, for everyone on this call, which of these three do you think has gotten your attention the most in the course of business? Is it profit? Is it people? Or is it purpose? I want you to drop your answer in the chat box. Yeah. So which one do you find yourself paying the most attention to, or probably your organization paying the most attention to? Profit, people, or purpose, right? So I'm saying people, purpose. All right, let's keep it coming. People and profits. I mean, people, purpose. Okay, awesome. People and profit. Even though I said one, some people, I understand. It's always very difficult sometimes to just stay with one, right? You just feel like, while I think people is important, I think profit is also very important. So that's what we're looking at this morning, how they interplay, what we need to do, and then how to balance it, right? And so balancing people, profit, and purpose is just an emphasis, right, on a leadership approach that goes beyond just making profit. It goes beyond short-term gains to look at long-term sustainable value. And also it highlights the need for leaders to make decisions to ensure business profitability, right? Profitability is very important, while also prioritizing employee well-being because it's also important. And of course, promoting ethical practices, social impact, and then everything that makes you come across as a responsible organization. Now, when you combine these three together, what happens is that you have sustainable growth, right? When you combine people, profit, and purpose, you have sustainable growth. And let's look at them one by one. When you are focused on profit, it keeps your business alive. And of course, every business owner or every business executive want their business to stay alive. When you focus on people, it keeps the business running because people would run the business. Whatever system, whatever process you have in place, you need people to run it. So the attention should be also on employee welfare. And when you're focused on profit purpose, it gives a direction to your business. Everybody within the business, they understand where we are going. They understand the why. They understand your values and why you do what you're doing. So there's a direction and people are not confused, right? So this already tells you that all of these are very, very important. And when we strike a balance between the three, we have stronger brands that are well respected. We have loyal teams because the employees are taken care of. You have trusted enterprises and long-term competitiveness. But there is always a battle, right? I could call it a battle between different stakeholders. So, for profit, when you look at investors and shareholders, they would prioritize profit, right? I'm using the word carefully. They would prioritize. It does not mean that they don't pay attention to people and purpose, but investors and shareholders would prioritize profit, right? While employees definitely will prioritize people, the community would prioritize purpose, government will prioritize purpose, and so at every particular point in the business, there is always this jostle, right? By different stakeholders for different things. And so it is the responsibility of the management and the leadership of the team to strike that balance, to ensure that even when the different stakeholders seem to be pulling them in different directions, they're able to maintain that balance and ensure that the three different P's are well taken care of because that is the way to ensure sustainable growth for a business, right? Ensure that the people are taken care of in terms of employee welfare. Ensure that the purpose of the business is well articulated, is well understood. And when we talk about purpose in this context, it is beyond just the reason why. I mean, it has a broader context, right? It's not just about the mission and the vision. The purpose talks about your why beyond just making profit. It talks about um, what value you represent to the environment. It talks about a lot of things. It talks about your community impact. It talks about your environmental sustainability. It talks about ethical conduct and governance. It talks about long-term value creation. You're looking long-term. And then it also talks about positive stakeholder relationships. So how do we marry all of these things together? It is the question that we ought to and we hope to answer on this call, right? So what's the challenge all about? What happens is that most leaders in business, they try to optimize one variable at a time. And it can happen to the best of us too, especially when, for instance, the stakeholders are breathing down your neck. Let's say the investors are saying we need to make more profit, we want more dividend. There is a tendency that you want to ask yourself, if I focus on employee welfare at this time, it means the profit that we make will be going into welfare of the employees. It means less return for the investors and the shareholders. What do we do? And then if I focus so much on the profit and I'm focusing on the shareholders and investors, what happens to the employees who drive the business? And then what about the social impact side of things? What about the purpose side of things, right? So when you are focused on profit, you know what happens? You hit your target, but there may be there may be some level of dissatisfaction, right, from the employees. When you are focused on the people, everybody's happy, right? But your finances may be unsustainable if you are not looking at the profit side of things. When you focus on purpose, you are mission driven, but if you're not careful, you might not be able to scale. So people will call you responsible. People will love what you do. They will applaud you. But what is the bottom line saying? Because at the end of the day, if profit is not made, the business might not be sustained, and then you might have to close shop. Okay, so what does this mean for leaders? It means you must define your why beyond just making money. It must be clear as night and day why you're doing what you're doing, and the objectives that you want to achieve. It must be clear to you, and it must be cascaded down to every member of the team so that they will understand why we're doing what we're doing. It is not to be shrouded in secrecy. Everybody must be carried along so that they understand what is happening. Okay. Then you must also learn to balance empathy, employee welfare with financial discipline. We want to be good, we want to take care of our employees, but we also have to be financially disciplined. We also need to look at the bottom line in terms of naira and kobo, in terms of dollar and pounds, right? And so, what are my key insights, right? Before I go to the last slide, profit is sustained, right? When people thrive, and that's it. You need to understand that when people thrive, when employees are well taken care of, it's a better way for you to sustain your profit because people are motivated to put in the work. And you might just be surprised at what the output would be when your people are well motivated. So when you treat people well, it's not charity. It's actually a profit strategy. And that's the mindset I want to leave us with. Treating people well is not charity. It is just a strategy to actually make more profit. And when we begin to see things this way as business leaders, it actually changes our mindset, right? It changes our outlook to how we drive businesses. Purpose drives competitive advantage. So when you have well-defined purpose, it becomes a differentiator in a crowded market. And what happens when you are differentiated in a crowded market? It means that you can get more patronage. Okay. So when the market is crowded, everybody is looking for that business that stands out. And what stands you out in the market is purpose. And when your purpose is standing you out and people love what you stand for, you get more patronage, which means that purpose can also help you take care of profit. So you can see how they interplay now. And of course, profit is the engine that powers purpose and people investment. If the business is broke, purpose becomes something you put at the back end of the whole thing, right? So also when profit is not coming, investment in people is threatened. So you must see each of these and the way they affect the other one. So when you are too much fixated on profit and you're not looking at purpose and people, it is a problem. When you are so fixated on people and you're not thinking on the profit side of things, it is a problem. So you must look at how they interplay and what profit means to people, what people mean to purpose, and just look at it that way. And that's how to make things happen. So in rounding off now, I need to talk about how we strike this balance. It is delicate balance. It's not the easiest thing to do for any business, but it is what we must always aim to do, especially if we are committed to responsible leadership, right? So how do we strike the balance? For purpose, you must learn to integrate the company's wise into the core business strategy. Your strategy cannot stand alone it cannot stand away from your purpose. So every time you come up with your strategy document, it must reflect your purpose. In fact, your purpose must drive your strategy. So it means that you cannot afford to just go copy somebody else's strategy. Your strategy is a function of your purpose. And it must also be focused on long-term value creation. The problem with focusing so much on profit is that you are always thinking short term if you're not careful, right? So Integrate your company's whys into the core business strategy and focus on long-term value creation for all stakeholders. When it comes to people, you must foster a trusting and inclusive culture where everybody has a sense of belonging and where everybody believes that they are important to the business and they are well respected and appreciated for the roles that they play in the business, right? So see employee well-being as an investment in the business and as a tool to generate more profit and become more purposeful, right? So inclusive culture is very important. And when it comes to profit, you want to look at the TBL framework, right? People talk about triple bottom line, people, profit, and planet. So you must measure your social and environmental impact alongside your financial results. Don't be too fixated on profit. I keep saying that. You must learn to measure a people, profit, planet. Of what importance are we to our environment? Of what importance are we to the community where we do business? Of what importance are we to the overall to the economy, right? So when you have learned to marry all of these three together, it results in responsible leadership, right? So, like I said earlier, it is about balancing the three. It's about emphasizing an approach that goes beyond short-term gains to create long-term sustainable value. And what this also does is that it highlights the need for leaders to make decisions that ensure business profitability while also prioritizing employee well-being, ethical practices, and social impact. So responsible leaders must learn to navigate complex stakeholders' expectations because stakeholders will pull you in different directions. They must learn to foster inclusive workplaces and they must also learn to adopt transparent and accountable management systems. And that's how to strike that balance. And it's also something that you must be intentional about. It's not something that you just do because you feel like. It's something that is well documented. It's something that you are intentional about. And you must have references so that when you're at a crossroad, you can refer to your policy document. You can refer to things that are documented to say, yes, I'm at this crossroad, but looking at our policy, this is what we are meant to do when we are faced with this situation. So when investor is saying more profit, more profit, more profit, when employees are saying employee welfare, employee welfare, employee welfare, when the community is saying social impact, you have policies that are guiding you and that are helping you to strike the delicate balance between purpose, profit, and the people. And this is where I'm going to end my presentation this morning. Thank you so very much.
Thank you very much, Seye, for your presentation. Very interesting insights there. We're going to hand over now to Mercy. Mercy, if you could reflect on the presentation of Seye, that would be appreciated.
All right, thank you, Juanita. Good morning, everybody. My name is Mercy, and I'm a student. I know that Juanita has introduced me, but one very important introduction is I'm a student of BSN, and I have learned a lot in the last couple of years as I'm carrying out my master's program. Shaya has said a lot of important things. He has said a lot of things that I think anyone that's involved in either for-profit or non-profit work would actually resonate with, striking the balance, how to ensure accountability, how to ensure ownership, and also how to ensure that you're making profit while doing a lot of these things, while working with community stakeholders and all. When I think about leadership, I think and I honestly believe that leadership is defined by uncertainty. Currently, the world is in an uncertain time, an uncertain period, and there is no greater time for you to be able to, for you to think about integrating all these proponents that she has mentioned than now. Because if you do not take it into account, if you do not take people into account, do not take profit into account, if you don't take your environment into account, you're going to actually lose. You're not going to be able to make as much profit as you want. Your turnover is going to be very high. I know that sometimes we like to think, and I'm speaking to business owners now, that people are replaceable. Yeah, sure. You can always employ a new project manager. You can always employ a new staff. However, there is a cost implication, right? When you continue to do all of that, money you would spend recruiting, that is money that has been gone. That is money that should have been used for something else. And these are the type of things you need to think about when you think about people. It is good business when you take care of your employees. It is good business. It is profitable for you when you invest in the people that work with you, because when you do that, they're able to give you their best. Someone might say, oh, but that doesn't determine, but that plays a huge role in keeping staff, in keeping the best staff. No matter how talented someone is, no matter how diligent a person is, if there are no incentives to keep that staff, the person would leave. And what does that mean for your business? Another person might say, oh, so we don't have to necessarily build the business around a particular person to reduce key man risks, but you need to take it into account to have people that actually provide the level of support that you need to get your business going together. One of the things he mentioned, and that was in passing, but thinking about it deeply, is how to ensure that even when you're listening to your HR, you're listening to people and say, oh, I need to take care of my staff. It's also accountability. And here, I would like to say you can hold someone accountable. You can ensure accountability. You can demand accountability without abusing the next person. You can ensure that your staff actually delivers what they're supposed to do without abusing them. And that makes you a better leader. Because without demanding accountability, you can't go so far. Everyone needs to be accountable. The world is in an uncertain time in different countries, in different parts of the world, and we need to ensure that we are all playing our roles, whether we are business owners or we're staff, right? Very, very important. Another thing I would like to speak on, and he has mentioned that, is when we're thinking about profitability, let's think about the entire system, right? Let's build our profitability into everything we do. Let's build our profitability into the work we do. And sometimes, and this is where I feel most of us do not do well as business owners, is not ensuring that that vision, that purpose is not shared with the people we work with. How do I know the contributions I'm making if I'm not carried along? How do I know that my work is purposeful if I'm not being carried along? So we need to reflect on all of this and ensure that as we are tying and integrating purpose, as we're integrating profit, as we're integrating people, we're ensuring that these people that we work with understand the reason why, understand why we are making these decisions, understand why we need to do what we need to do, right? Understand that we are headed for a particular goal. And without their contributions, we will not be able to do that. And when we're doing all of these things, ensuring that we are ensuring accountability by holding everyone accountable to the ethics of the business. Thank you, and over to you.
Thank you so much, Mercy, for that insights. Yes, interesting topic. We can open the floor now to some questions. I see some have been dropped in the chat already and some comments have been dropped in the chat already. Bert says he prefers to talk more over continuity goals of a company instead of profit. And this is the revenue you need to continue. Seye, what do you think about that comment?
Apologies, I was muted.
Should I repeat the comment? Should I repeat the comment?
Please go ahead. Please go ahead.
Yes.
Please go ahead.
He says he prefers to Bert says he prefers to talk more over the continuity goals of the company instead of profit. And this is the revenue you need to continue. What do you think about that variable?
Okay, so I'm not going to say it's just semantics, right? Because when we talk about revenue continuity, it's driven by profit. But I think I also understand where it's coming from. Where the focus is it's about continuing, not making big profit where it's just about profit. So the reason why you want to make profit is just about continuity, right? Because business has to continue, and that's justifiable, right? So I understand that we should focus on continuity, because if there's no continuity, why are we talking about people? There are no people to talk about, they will go. And there is no purpose, right? Because business does not continue. So I totally understand. So let's focus on continuity. It is very important because that creates context for every other conversation. If the business dies, purpose, people, they all fizzle out. So, but the attention of profit should not be so much that we are so blindsided to the other things like the purpose and the people. Yeah, so I quite agree. And so that should be the attention. We should focus on business continuity so that we can have the means to take care of the people and also be able to execute the purpose. So I guess Messi wants to add one or two things to that.
Yes, I want to. Thank you so much. And here, I think it's important to emphasize systems. Most of the time, we create businesses and run them as we do our normal day-to-day activity without putting systems in place. Systems reduce risk like this. Systems ensure that you are able to balance being people-centric and also delivering purposeful work and ensuring value for money. Do not have systems. It's first of all difficult for you to evaluate and say, okay, so what I'm doing is purposeful, or the support I'm giving goes over the top and all. Yes, people would leave, but it's important to have systems. One of the systems you can put in place is ensuring that, certain systems that are people friendly. It depends on your business, but what kind of systems would ensure that? Your typical ones would be the what they call the HMO, different kinds of support that can support, different kinds of things that can support them. However, you also need to have systems that actually evaluate your results. So what are your M&E systems? How do you measure results? How do you ensure accountability? How do you actually ensure that your staff is doing well? Do you work with the managers or people in place to ensure accountability and checkmate that they are actually doing well? What are the review systems in place? How often is the review system in place? Is it quarterly? Is it annually? Is it biannually? How do you review performance? If you're able to have all of these things together, it's easier for you to manage that and for you to actually blend being people-centric and also blend being profit-driven and looking at value for money. Over to you, Juanita.
Thank you, Mercy. We have another question from Alex. He says, oftentimes business survival and continuity makes it difficult for business owners to be long-term minded as against short-term fixation. In what specific ways can HR drive this balance between profit drive, people-centric initiatives, and purposeful work culture at the same time?
Okay. Okay, let me answer that briefly. Maybe Messi will also contribute. So I like the fact that it is focused on HR. And I think the first thing I would say is that HR is not an extension of employee union, because sometimes what happens is that HR becomes like the head of the employee union, if you know what I'm saying. And so everything they do is to fight for the employees. And is it wrong to be focused on employee welfare? No, that's not what I'm saying. But HR needs to understand that they are operating within a context. And what makes them look good is not just fighting for employees to get better pay and to get the next promotion. While all of those things are good, HR is a lot more than that. HR stands in between the management and the employees. So the first thing is HR. Usually, the HR person should be somebody who has a good view of business performance, understand what the business is doing well. So that's why I don't advocate for an HR person being a junior person. They need to see what is happening in the business, right? So the HR must be able to align their people strategy with business goals. It is very, very important. You must ensure that whatever decision they are taking in terms of talent, engagement, and recruitment support revenue, support efficiency, and support the sustainability of the business, right? You must learn to introduce cost-efficient processes, lean model, and every other thing that can help the business to also thrive, instead of just being the champion of employee welfare alone, right? They are champions of employee welfare, but they must also learn to see what the business looks like. They must have a good view of business performance. They must understand the goals of the business, and that will also influence their talent strategy, right? So when this is in place, HR will understand what to do and what not to do. they will also be able to cascade things down to the employees, the reasons why some particular demands from the employees might not be met, right? Because we are looking at sustainability. They will tell them that if we really want to be sustainable, we are not able to grant this request at this moment because from where I sit, I can see so, 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 and so. So that would be my response to that question.
Thank you, Seye. We have another question for you. So if we wanted to implement this concept today of balancing these variables, where do we start? If we're not doing it, where do we start?
So, where do we start? So it becomes a case of chicken egg. Which one comes first, right? So the question is, which one would you start with? Are you just going to start with the people? Are you going to ensure that you get a lot of profit so that you can take care of the people and the purpose? Or are you just going to go back and say, these are purpose, this is why we exist, and this is what we need to do? I think the first thing to do is to do an audit within the system to know where you're falling short, see how you are doing on the three parameters, people, purpose, and profit. And then the place where you are falling short the most, I believe, is where you want to start with, because that's where people would, where the difference will be noticeable quickly, right? So if I notice that we are falling short so much on employee welfare, it means even when I'm driving them for profit, they wouldn't want to listen to me. They're already disconnected, they are demotivated. Maybe I want to start with that and put a lot of focus on it, letting them understand that they are quite important to the system and they are the ones that will also help us to drive the purpose and achieve the profit. So maybe so I would do an audit of the system. That's where I would start from. And that would also help me to now come up with a strategy document that defines what would happen across the three parameters and what we're going to do, who does what are the timelines, what are we trying to achieve, what are the KPIs, how do we measure, and every other thing in between.
Fantastic. I have a comment here from Bert. We are used to organize companies around disciplines, but not about the total business process growth. And if you do that, you can involve all employees in your continuity goals as a part of the total revenue. For instance, the secretary is also important as a production facility because all are a part of the process and they feel valued. Do you have any comments on that?
I think Mercy wants to say something. I'll yield the floor to Mercy.
Mercy?
Hi, thank you for that. I'm just going to provide a practical scenario before I jump into the response to the last question. So you said, where do we start? I like the idea by Seye to have an audit that actually holistic reviews your system. I think the next thing would then do it to be a deep dive. So if I were a people manager, people manager, head of culture, right? That audit would take place, and the audit would also feature reviews by the employees we work with to understand what the pain points are, what the issues are, and all of that, including stakeholders. And then we would have a session. We'll have a holistic session where we get to interrogate those findings, because sometimes those findings might be caused by some factors that you are not aware of. So yes, we are looking at people, culture, and profit, but if the foundation is faulty, if there are issues that are resulting to those things, if there are issues that are affecting the people, if there are issues that are affecting the profits, if there are issues around the product itself, whatever the product may be, there might be a problem regardless of what you want to implement or you want to do. So that deep dive will allow us to co-create solutions to whatever that we need to do. And that deep dive, that session might result into different things. Again, one of the things I would like to highlight here, and I've said this before, the fact that you're being a leader doesn't mean you can't hold people accountable, right? It doesn't mean you can't hold people. Holding people accountable, being, standing firm when it requires is part of leadership, right? And that is where you get to do that. That is where you get to turn the ship. That is where you get to do that. So that process will help you understand what the issues are, how to solve those issues, and even bring up other issues that you did not know that exist. And when that is highlighted, you can then say, okay, this is the solution that we are creating together, And this is the part we're moving forward on. The comment by the participants on the fact that you need to include everybody, including the executive secretary, I totally agree that you need to have everybody on board, right? So imagine if we're going to be doing a deep dive, a situational analysis or a company-wide analysis or audit of whatever the situation is, right? Auditing people. So why are we losing staff? Why is a lot of our staff leaving within less than 6 months? What is going on? And all of that, you definitely need to have your secretary in, because your secretary will definitely know what's going on. Your secretary knows more people and probably talks to more people than you do. You're just there making decisions. You probably don't know what's happening on the ground floor, but your secretary knows. So that would help you to understand, oh, so this is what's going wrong. This is what's happening with our people. This is what people are saying about our product. This is what we need. So you definitely need to have everybody. Again, the fact that you're focusing on people doesn't mean you're not focusing on profit. Is how you marry the two, right? How you marry the two. If you're focusing on the environmental space now, or you're doing a program or a project focusing on that, you need to look at the environment, and it's profitable to do so. You just have to calculate it. Like I said, you need to put profits in whatever you're doing, even in your people, right? What's the cost of the person that you're hiring per head? This unit, what's their cost, right? How much billable hours do they deliver? Right? I work in a nonprofit, but there is a cost to everybody. And if you're in HR, if you're in management, you should know this cost, because it's this cost that is going to determine your decisions. Is this cost that's going to make you say, okay, we're going to move forward on this, we're not going to move forward on that, or we need to cut down costs. We need to do this, we need to do that. It doesn't mean you're forgetting profit. No, absolutely not. You're just taking into consideration the key units of production, which is people. That is basically it. Thank you, and over.
Mercy, thank you very much for that comments. We have still some questions and some comments, but unfortunately our time has run out and we're not going to be able to get to them. But thank you very much, Seye, for your insightful presentation this morning, and for your very good reflection on that, Mercy. Well appreciated. I think it's given us all some food for thought of what we should have a look at within our own organizations and the audits that we should take to ensure that we are balancing these three variables. So thank you very much for your time. Next week, our topic will be human mobility in a changing world, rethinking migration, reintegration, and inclusion. Our speaker is Alex Oturu, Southwest Zonal Coordinator of the National Commission of Refugees, Migrants, and Internally Displaced Persons. And our reflector is Joseph Origbanam, Senior Project Assistant of the IOM. All that's left to say is thank you very much for logging on this morning to everybody that is logged on. I've noted that there were people from the UK, from the Netherlands, from Sierra Leone, from South Africa, from Nigeria. Nice to see you all this morning, and thank you very much for taking the time to attend. Have a good day, everybody.